Maybe you're in a relationship and you're probably thinking, okay, let me make a pros and cons list of this person. And depending on how many I have, I'm going to go with that decision. And you come up with 10 pros and 10 cons. Now you're back on the drawing board. Like if you have to call up 7 or 10 friends to come to a simple decision, that means that you heavily put your opinion on how others perceive you. Welcome back to the Big Comfy Couch, where we talk about all things God, relationships, and psychology. If you're interested in that kind of content, make sure you guys subscribe below. Today, I have never been more excited to get into a single topic. I kid you guys not. I searched YouTube high and low, and not many people are covering this topic. So today we're going to be talking about the id, the ego, and the super ego. Grab your notebooks, whatever it is that you write with these days, because we're going to get into it. The main topic of this actual video is going to be helping you figure out why you're indecisive. And what a lot of people don't realize why indecision happens. The simple answer is the id and the super ego are fighting. So before we can really get into everything, let's just get into the definitions. Your id is basically your impulsive feelings. It's usually driven by sexual desires or just things that you just want innately. So it can literally be like your hunger for food, your wants. I want it now. I'm hungry now. I'm trying to get it in now, like now. Next is your superego. So your superego is basically like the good angel on your shoulder. Okay, it is like the evil angel. Superego is like the good angel. And so this is everything that has to do with morality. This is everything that has to do with doing what's right. The way I like to put it is almost like the Holy Spirit. If you're a woman of God, you might get this. The id is the flesh, the superego is the Holy Spirit, and the ego is the soul. The Holy Spirit lives within you, and it's always telling you right from wrong. It's always like that bad angel on your other shoulder that's like telling you what you just want to do. So that brings me now to ego. And the ego is essentially reality. So when you take the id and then you take the superego, you basically put them together and you come to a decision that is the ego. The ego is what comes out. So number one, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get to the bottom of as to why you are indecisive. Okay, I want to help you guys because this is what's helped me. So first, you must identify what kind of indecisive person are you. Okay, we have 3 types. Number one, we have the overthinker. Okay, the overthinker is usually someone who is driven by the superego. And so you probably grew up with strict parents. You overthink. You're concerned with what people think. And sometimes you base your decisions based on how people will perceive you. You are somebody who is more concerned with what's right. And so what happens is a lot of your decisions are very safe. They're very super ego driven. Next, we have an impulsive decision maker. These are the people who do what the freak they want, okay? They need to take a trip, bills need to get paid, but their mental health matters more. Carefree, super go lucky, they just, whatever comes to mind, they say, like you don't think at all about any of your decisions, which I wish I had more of. I'm jealous of you, low key, okay? This is usually the kind of person who makes decisions, but they don't ever think about the consequences. So as much as this person is very free-spirited, it always ends up with a lot of consequences. They always end up with a lot of consequences in the end. Lastly, you have your chronic doubters. You just can't come to a unanimous decision because they just keep wrestling with each other. You just keep doing pros and cons. Maybe you're in a relationship and you're probably thinking, okay, let me make a pros and cons list of this person. And depending on how many I have, I'm going to go with that decision. And you come up with 10 pros and 10 cons. Now you're back on the drawing board. This is the sign of a chronic doubter. It's not a good place to be because you're literally like fighting with yourself in your mind. And then when you actually do come to a decision, what ends up happening is like, let's just say you made the wrong decision. You beat yourself up over it because it's like you thought about it for so long, yet you still came out with the wrong decision. So mentally exhausting. And you also do not want to be a person that relies too much on other people's opinions. Like if you have to call up 7 or 10 friends to come to a simple decision, that is not a good sign, right? That means that you heavily put your opinion on how others perceive you and what other people think. These are individuals who are literally stuck in the middle. You have your super ego on this ear telling you the right thing to do, and then you have your id on this ear that's telling you what you really want to do, and you cannot come to a decision because these two sides are battling with each other. This matters because if you are with a man that truly cares about you and puts you first, he's gonna want to do things that make you happy. But if you don't even know what makes you happy, like, how are you ever gonna be able to make requests or ask him to do things or help you with things if you don't even know what you like? You know what I'm saying? Like, I kid you guys not. Like, this is like the number one step to getting the life that you want. You first need to actually be able to define what it is that you want. What are your interests? What are your favorite foods? You know, what are your favorite restaurants? What do you like to do for fun? You know, and I find that depending on your upbringing, everybody is different, but I find that sometimes your id or the things that you want can be based off of the people around you and your environment. And you just don't want that when you're in a very healthy relationship. You need to have individuality. You need to know what pleases you. And I remember I had a friend like this. It was so crazy. Like, she literally was so id driven. Like, I'm gonna just be honest. I'm very super ego driven. I've learned how to like get it under control. But this one girl, I think the reason why we got along is because we were literally two opposite sides of the spectrum. I was the angel and she was the devil. She was just literally so impulsive. She never thought. She just did whatever was at the top of her mind. And honestly, like, those are the best type of girls to go to Miami with. When I was going out, I loved, like, when I was doing atmosphere modeling and stuff, I loved being with her because we would start one place at the beginning of the night and end up at another place at the end of the night. I remember this one year we went to Miami and we were walking on the strip and these random guys were literally like, do you guys want to hop on the back of our motorcycle? And I was like, I looked at her and she's like, sure, let's go. And we rode. And there was another time where we were also in Miami, that same trip. We were just walking on the strip again and literally this random guy was like, you guys are beautiful. Do you guys want to ride to your car? And in my head, I'm like, this is the craziest. Are you kidding me? You never get in a car with a stranger. And she said, sure, let's go. I was like, girl, like, I just went with the flow because there was 6 of us and 1 of him. So at the end of the day, I said to myself, he's outnumbered. But like, it was just still so crazy how like in a split second, she was like, yeah, like she didn't even like process the risk. Like my brain is like, but like, I guess that's like, I also like what I needed. Like it was the balance that I needed because it was like, I'm always overthinking every decision and she was just go, go, go. And so when the 2 of us came together, it was beautiful. Okay, so to get to the root issue of as to why you feel like you might be indecisive, it's because you're either super ego driven or you have a good balance of the super ego and the ego, but they just keep rubbing each other and they just can't come to a decision. And that's why you're stuck in the middle. You're stuck with figuring out what you really want to do. The best advice that I can give to that, number one, go with your gut, okay? Go with the first decision that comes to mind. That is usually the best decision. I remember one of my best friends said to me, she was like, I'm trying to pick a slogan for my brand, Soft Life Wigs. And I'm going with the first thing that came to mind. And we started thinking about a few other like options. And she literally was like, you know what? I usually always go with the first choice or the first thing that I think of. And to this day, that's the slogan that I use. Number two. If you feel like this is a decision that does take a little bit of time to actually like process, like you actually want to think it through because it's you know, maybe a bigger decision, give yourself a time limit. It'd be anywhere from 30 seconds to like, I don't know, like a minute or like 10 minutes. But do not go over that. Whatever it is that you decide to give yourself the amount of time you think you need for that specific decision, give yourself that time and do not go over it. This has worked wonders. When I'm thinking of Wendy's, what's the first thing that I'm excited to have? And I would just like, it's always gonna be nuggets for me. Yeah, I would just go with the first thing that came to mind, or I'd give myself a time limit. Number 3, and I think this one is probably the most important, is always ask yourself what makes sense. That is the number one thing to remember when it comes to trying to make a decision. Ask yourself, what makes sense here? And when you ask yourself from a logical perspective, you will realize that the decision is plain and simple. Like, I can't even like, oh my goodness, like this was like, I can't even like word it. I can't even bring myself to say the words that I even want to say right now. But it's like, when you ask yourself what makes sense, you're no longer thinking from an emotional perspective, but you're thinking from your mind. And you're saying to yourself, okay, I need to do XYZ. What makes sense right now? And so the reason why this is important is because I actually did my research. Indecision mainly also resides from your emotions kind of being involved with the decision. So let's just say you're dating a guy, okay? And you dated him for maybe 6-8 months, still kind of new. And now it's time for you to go to college and university, and you guys are going to 2 completely different colleges and university, okay? Your heart wants to stay. Your heart says, I want to stay with him. But what makes sense? Okay, how are you guys going to do long distance? How are you guys going to make it work? Maybe you guys are in 2 completely different professions. What if you guys are what if you are stopping yourself, your boyfriend is stopping you from finding your husband? Huh? And by no means am I telling anybody to break up with their boyfriend or girlfriend if they're moving schools, but you just have to kind of weigh it out in that way. What makes sense right now? And so that's the best way that you can really come to a decision. Just ask yourself and genuinely answer what makes sense. Don't think emotionally. Don't think what feels good, what I want. Just ask yourself from a logical perspective, what makes sense. And I guarantee you, making a decision will become a lot easier because you're no longer thinking from a place of emotion, but you're thinking from a place of logic. So just to reiterate, go with your gut, aka the first choice that comes to mind. Give yourself about 30 seconds to make the decision and ask yourself what makes sense. Last but not least, be kind to yourself. Okay, be kind to yourself. I know a lot of people who might be indecisive might beat themselves up because once you do come to the decision and it ends up being wrong, you feel bad or you like get angry at yourself because it's like, I went through all of this just to make the wrong decision. Like, you be kind to yourself. Okay, there's something called like the 80-20 rule where it's like, nobody is perfect, and at some point you will make a mistake. At some point you will make the wrong decision, and you would just have to be okay with that. You get what I'm saying? Like, don't be so hard on yourself. If you make 10 decisions in the day and you mess up on 2, babe, that's 80%. That's literally 80% of your day that went well. Last time I checked, that's an A. Okay, that's an A plus. Well, not plus, but it's an A regardless. Be kind to yourself, especially during this transition of you becoming more decisive and knowing what you want. Provider men, masculine men love a woman that knows what she wants. Loves a woman that puts herself first. Loves a woman that's a little, selfish. I'm not saying be selfish, but being selfish sometimes means putting yourself first, taking care of yourself. Okay, taking care of your maintenance, taking care of your body, like put yourself first. And the way that you put yourself first is discovering what you want, discovering what your needs are, discovering what works for you. Okay, so I hope this video helps you guys. I feel like every time let me not even go on a rant. All right, so I hope this video helped you guys out. If you are indecisive, it has to do with the id, ego, superego. And don't be so hard on yourself. Nobody's perfect. At the end of the day, just trust and believe whatever decision that you make. Because at that moment in time that you made it, it made sense to you. And that's all that matters, boo. And that's all that matters, boo. Okay, that's all. That's it. That's all. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe if you want more content like this. If you want to see more content about God, psychology, and relationships, this is the channel for you, boo. This is the channel for you, boo. This is the channel for you, boo, 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 you. Anyways, all right. Anyways. Love you.